Hey, economic truth seekers. Welcome back to Boss Economics World, where we slice through the government's economic baloney like a hot knife through taxpayer-funded butter. I'm your host, the no-nonsense, data-driven, government-skewering boss economist, here to expose the clown show that is Britain's economic policy in 2025. Grab your popcorn, folks, because today, we're diving headfirst into Labour's catastrophic mismanagement, a tale of tears, indecision, and a recession so bad, it's practically a British tradition at this point. Picture this. Britain's finance minister, sobbing like a reality TV contestant, right in the middle of a parliamentary debate. If that doesn't scream, we're in deep economic doo-doo, I don't know what does. Just 1 year after Labour's landslide victory in 2024, the UK economy is a smouldering dumpster fire. Markets are jittery, public services are on life support, the military is running on fumes, and economic growth. Well, let's just say it's about as robust as a soggy British biscuit. And to top it all off, Labour's leadership is so indecisive, they couldn't pick a sandwich at a deli without a 12-month consultation period. But hey, don't take my word for it, let's zoom out from this tearful melodrama and dive into the nitty-gritty of how Labour's bumbling has plunged the UK into economic chaos. From housing to healthcare, welfare to warfare, we're going to dissect this mess from the ground up, exposing the structural rot and government incompetence that's driving Britain into the ground. Buckle up, folks, it's going to be a wild ride. Let's start with Labour's flagship policy, a pledge to build 1.5 million new homes by the end of their term. Sounds great, right? Except it's 2025, and they're already so far off track, they might as well be trying to build castles in the sky. According to the latest data from the Office for National Statistics, housing starts in Q2 2025 were down 15% compared to the same period in 2024, with only 32,000 new homes breaking ground. At this rate, Labour will be lucky to hit half their target by 2029, and that's being generous. Why does this matter? Because housing isn't just about bricks and mortar, it's the backbone of economic growth. Construction drives jobs, boosts consumer spending, and supports entire supply chains, from steel to cement to interior design. The Resolution Foundation estimates that every 100,000 homes built annually adds 0.6% to GDP growth. So, Labour's failure to deliver isn't just a broken promise, it's a direct hit to the UK's already anemic growth, which the OECD projects at a measly 0.9% for 2025, lagging behind every other G7 nation except Germany. But wait, it gets worse. The housing shortage is also fueling a cost of living crisis. Average rents in London have soared to £2,200 per month, up 11% year-on-year, according to Zoopla, while first-time buyers are being priced out faster than you can say, stamp duty. This is classic government failure. Instead of bold reforms to planning laws, greenbelt policies, or incentives for high-density development, Labour's been twiddling its thumbs, scared of upsetting a few NIMBYs in the home counties. The result? A generation locked out of homeownership, a stunted construction sector, and an economy that's flatlining. Bravo, Labour, truly a masterclass in economic sabotage. Now, let's talk about public services, because if the housing crisis is a slow-motion car crash, the state of the NHS, prisons, and military is a full-on multi-vehicle pile-up. The National Health Service is facing a £22 billion funding gap over the next 5 years, according to the Institute for Fiscal Studies, with waiting lists for elective surgeries hitting a record 7.6 million in June 2025. Meanwhile, the British Medical Association reports that 1 in 4 NHS doctors are planning to leave the profession within the next 2 years due to burnout and low pay. This isn't just a healthcare crisis, it's an economic one, too. A sick workforce means lower productivity, higher absenteeism, and a bigger welfare bill. The ONS estimates that ill health cost the UK economy £160 billion in lost output in 2024 alone. Then there's the prison system, which is so overcrowded, the government is reportedly considering early releases for non-violent offenders, a policy straight out of the desperate measures playbook. And don't even get me started on the military. A 2025 strategic review by the Ministry of Defence found that the armed forces are underfunded to the tune of £17 billion over the next decade, leaving Britain dangerously exposed at a time of rising geopolitical tensions. Just look at NATO's latest spending data. The UK's defence expenditure as a share of GDP fell to 2.1% in 2024, below the alliance's 2% target, while peers like France and the US are ramping up investment. So, what's Labour's response to these crises? Token gestures and half-baked reforms, of course. Take their attempt to test winter fuel payments, a policy so poorly thought out, it was reversed faster than a politician's promise after Election Day. Or their disability reform, which aimed to address the fact that 1 in 10 working-age adults are on disability support, but ended up so watered down, it achieved nothing except alienating their own MPs. This isn't leadership, it's economic cowardice, and it's dragging the UK deeper into recession. Now, let's get to the juicy stuff, Labour's fiscal policy, or as I like to call it, the art of promising everything and delivering nothing. The government's headline fiscal rule, that debt must fall as a share of GDP in the fifth year of every forecast, is the economic equivalent of a magician's trick. That fifth year is a moving target, rolling forward indefinitely, allowing the chancellor to kick the can down the road while racking up debt today. And boy, are they racking it up. Public sector net debt hit 99.5% of GDP in Q1 2025, according to the ONS, the highest level since the early 1960s. Labour claims it's committed to budgetary restraint, pointing to a modest £9.9 billion in fiscal headroom announced in March 2025. But guess what? That headroom has already been obliterated by higher gilt yields, sluggish growth, and soaring welfare costs, which the IFS estimates will rise by £12 billion annually by 2027 due to an aging population and long-term sickness. The result? Britain is borrowing at a premium compared to its peers. Just look at France, where 10-year bond yields are a full percentage point lower, despite their own fiscal challenges. This fiscal mess isn't just an accounting problem, it's a confidence problem. Markets are losing faith, as evidenced by the pound's 3% decline against the dollar in the past 6 months, and the public is losing patience, with polls showing Labour trailing Nigel Farage's Reform UK, a populist outfit with zero governing experience. The once mighty Conservative Party. They're in fourth place, behind even the Liberal Democrats. If this isn't a damning indictment of Labour's economic management, I don't know what is. Here's the kicker, folks, to fix this mess, Labour needs to raise revenue. But instead of bold tax reform, they're tiptoeing around the issue like a cat on a hot tin roof. Raising one of the main tax rates, income, VAT, or corporation tax, might be politically toxic, but it's necessary to fund defence, repair public services, and invest in long-term growth. The UK's tax-to-GDP ratio is already at a 70-year high of 37%, according to the IFS, but the system is riddled with distortions that Labour refuses to fix. Take the VAT system, for example. It's a mess of narrow exemptions and arbitrary rules, costing the Treasury £50 billion annually in lost revenue, per HMRC estimates. Or the income tax system, where a 60% marginal rate kicks in at £100,000, disincentivizing high earners and driving talent abroad. And don't even get me started on capital gains tax, which distorts investment incentives and fuels inequality. Fixing these issues could raise tens of billions while making the system fairer and more efficient, but Labour's too scared to touch them, preferring instead to tinker at the edges with gimmicks like windfall taxes on energy firms, which raise peanuts in the grand scheme of things. Finally, let's talk about the elephant in the room, Brexit. The UK's self-imposed economic isolation continues to haunt us, with the Centre for Economic Performance estimating that leaving the EU has already cost the economy £140 billion in lost output since 2016. Labour's recent Reset summit with the EU made some encouraging noises: carbon market alignment, defence procurement, regulatory cooperation, but these are just pledges, not policies. If Labour were serious about reversing the UK's economic slide, they'd push to rejoin the single market, ending the trade barriers that have crushed British exporters and restoring investor confidence. So, there you have it, folks, a government so incompetent, it's turned a once-in-a-generation electoral mandate into an economic train wreck in just 1 year. From housing to healthcare, welfare to warfare, Labour's indecision, cowardice, and obsession with token gestures have plunged the UK into a recession that's entirely of their own making. The data doesn't lie, growth is tepid, debt is soaring, public services are crumbling, and confidence is evaporating faster than a politician's principles. But hey, it's not all doom and gloom, there's still time for Labour to turn things around. A bold housing plan, serious tax reform, proper funding for public services, and a real Brexit reset could get the UK back on track. The question is, does this tearful, indecisive government have the guts to do it? Or will they keep tinkering while Britain burns? That's all for today, economic truth seekers. If you're as fed up with Labour's economic clown show as I am, smash that like button, subscribe, and share this video with every taxpayer who's sick of seeing their hard-earned cash flushed down the government's drain. This is Boss Economics World, signing off, because someone's gotta call out the economic nonsense around here.